Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another movie review. Today, I'm going to be reviewing A Quiet Place. This is the 2018 sort of horror thriller by John Krasinski, and I have to say I absolutely love this movie. It's one of the few movies I can say as soon as I'm walking out of the movie, I want to see it again. I want to see it with my friends. I want other people to experience it. I want to be able to rewatch it with the information in my head and be able to focus on different aspects of the movie because there's a lot going on here in a short time frame. It's only 95 minutes minus the credits, and it's amazing. Straight off the bat, too long didn't read here. Go see this movie. It's fantastic. As a horror fan myself, on my top 25 movies, I got Halloween and Saw and Nightmare on Elm Street, but I love horror, and this really surpassed all of those in its creativity, in its unique concept, in its execution. And anyway, I concur. Amazing movie. For a short summary of the plot, the story of A Quiet Place follows a man and his family who live in a world that's been overtaken by some sort of creatures. They sort of look like people, but they have like long the Pokemon Scyther, they've got like those long scythe looking arms and legs, and they've got really crazy heads that are sort of echolocation devices, and they are completely blind. But these creatures, whenever they hear something loud or really anything at all, they attack it. And so most of the world has been killed off, and the world is just, or at least we can assume that the world is just bands of families trying to survive as much as they can, because we never actually see anything outside of the family. And that's basically the entire plot. It's really about the family surviving. There are some minor things that feed into the plot, like the wife or the mother is pregnant and she's having a baby, and you'll know that from if you've seen the trailers. But the whole point is that these people have to survive and adapt to living silently. Great concept, by the way. If you think about horror movies, you think about people screaming, you think of them about them running away, but this subverts all of that completely, and that now they have to stay put. They have to learn to sneak around. So here is my points about this movie. The best aspect of the movie, in my personal opinion, is the fact that they completely skip the creatures are put in the back. Even when they're like around, it's all about the family. We don't see the origin story of these creatures. We get a little teases and in newspaper clippings just talking about the aliens, but we don't even know if they're aliens. We don't know where they came from or how they got there. But we don't know anything about that. So these creatures just happen to be there, and because of this, the characters know what's going on, but we don't. So the story is sort of chopped off. Things happened before, and then we are watching what's happening during. And what this causes is that they don't actually talk about the the origin and things of that nature, because they already know what's going on. They have no reason to repeat it. And another thing about that is we don't learn the characters' names because they can't actually speak to each other, because that's just too loud. And because they know each other's names and they can't yell each other's names, they can't do anything like that, so we never learn them. That creates this focused narrative, which is sort of just survive. There's no end goal, there's no get to a certain place, there's no save someone, there's stay alive, keep the family safe. That is the entire plot of a movie. And I personally really enjoyed it because it's very unique. There's usually a goal in a movie, and this just took that and threw it out the window and said, you are watching these people's lives. This is what would happen in their life. You don't usually have a set goal like most people in movies do. It's sort of just a snapshot of a set of time in their life. And about that is this movie takes place the majority over, I'd say, 3 days. But we get a clip on day 89, I think it says, at the very beginning. The opening segment is day 89. Some stuff happens there, which I won't spoil. and then it jumps straight to day 470 or something like that. So you get that gap there, and we never learn anything about it. We never learn anything about what happened in there to these characters. We just see how they're living their lives now. And it's that lack of backstory, as I was saying, that really keeps the movie focused. What else? It really the another big aspect of the movie. Obviously, they can't make sound, but what this does is makes you realize how much we take sound for granted in horror movies. But even as human beings, we are not stealthy creatures. We are clumsy. Everything we do, closing doors, setting down plates, everything's got some sort of stupid noise going. So we cough, we cry, we laugh, we yell, and they can't do any of that. So it skips the sound and goes straight to the emotion. And it's really, really great because it focuses more on facial communication. They use sign language. It's the emotion being projected from character to character instead of being spoken. And even they have intense conversations entirely through sign language with subtitles at the bottom, and that's really unique and interesting. And as well, one of the characters, the daughter, is deaf, which feeds into a couple plot points, which I won't spoil. But that's a great take because sometimes when she's on screen, you don't have any sound at all, and then it switches back to another character, and then you have sound, and that worked beautifully. But I think the best thing overall as a film, and instead of this as a story, is just how well put together and how well competently made it is. The set design is incredible. The farm and their the ways they've learned to survive by using different things to keep their world sort of soundproofed. They have sand paths that they put wherever they would need to go so that they can walk barefoot and not make any sound while they're walking, which is very clever. They have a set of lights following the path that they can switch to red if there's danger, which is really cool because the creatures are blind and they can't see the light, so it's just a way to tell the other people that there's danger without having to yell to them. And that's really amazing, the set design as well as the character, their costumes and such. It's pretty generic, but because takes place just in our near future, it's just our everyday clothes, but in an alternate setting, and it gives you a sense that this could happen to us. It probably won't, but if something like this were to happen, that's what it would be like. Let's see. Another thing is, because of the lack of sound, you're always thinking, oh, well, what if this happened? What would happen if this happened? And they actually give you quite a bit to think about, and they give you the scenarios over and over again of what would happen if this happened. What would happen if they were playing a board game? They're playing Monopoly at some point in the movie, and they, instead of using the little plastic pieces, they've switched it out with pieces of felt, so it's much quieter. And they don't wear shoes, so all of their footsteps are quieter. They paint marks on floors where it's not creaky so that they can step and be stealthy. And it's really creatively done, and it shows you that this is a smart horror movie. The characters are not dumb. They do not freak out constantly. They are not the ones being terrified. It's us. They know what's going on. And that's another point about this movie. We know things the characters don't through like foreshadowing and such, zooming in on different objects, but they know far more than us. And we're the ones learning about the world, and they have the experience. And it's an amazing balance, and it's super unique. My final point, and another big thing about this, is I'm not sure what I said about this, if I said anything about this before, but we don't know anything about the current world that they are living in. We don't know how anyone else is doing. We see one other person in the movie. We don't know how the entire world is faring, how the economy works now, how if there's even like travel. We don't know how other families have developed their ways of surviving. We just know just what the family that we are watching does, and makes you think, because you don't know. You think, what would my family do in a situation like this? How would our survival techniques differ? And it's a movie that makes you think, and that's really what I get down to. Is it makes you think. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what would happen if you were there. You don't know what did happen, and then you have to think about all of it. And it's the amount of thought that goes into your experience watching the movie that really brings it all together. So honestly, I'm gushing about this movie. There are some things that other people complain about that I didn't find bad. There are a couple unnecessary jump scares, but honestly, when you think about it, these characters are living such a tense life. Everything around them could happen in a terrible way. They could die at any moment if something goes snap wrong. So little jump scares, they would happen. They would be scared if something fell. They would be terrified, and I don't think it actually hurt the movie in any way. As well as the ending is kind of abrupt. It's not really real conclusion. But I thought it was great because, once again, it feeds into the idea that we are just watching a part of their lives. It doesn't need a solid finish because we're just observing. Your life doesn't usually have solid finishes. You just live. And that's the unique part about this movie and why I enjoyed it so much. So I give this movie 5 stars. You really have to see it. Even if you're not a fan of horror, this movie takes a backseat to horror or the scares for a large majority of it. It's just, it's serene, it's quiet, there's barely any dialogue, it's tense at moments, but the scary part nearing the end, the scary parts are more about the devotion of the characters to each other and their bravery and how they react, rather than the filmmakers trying to just get a cheap scare out of you. So, as I said, 5-star movie. Go see this movie, and I will see you guys in another video. Bye.